Well, arriving on these shores with no knowledge of the English language and certainly no knowledge about harness racing, my next guest certainly enjoyed a more than successful career in this particular sport. I was pleased to catch up with Les Kosklin. Well, Les, it's good to catch up with you after all these years and an interesting pathway to where we are today. All commenced 65 years ago.
That's right. We arrived in Australia back in 1959. I was 9 years old, and we went to far north Queensland, which couldn't be any more different to Finland.
Yeah, you arrived with your mum and dad and sister, and as you said, what a remarkable transition from Finland to far north Queensland with that weather.
Yeah, it was polar opposites, you'd say. We stayed up there for about 2 years. Then my father built a caravan and we towed it behind a little Austin, four-cylinder Austin, all the way to Sydney and settled in Sydney.
What was your first impressions?
Oh, Australia. Oh, it was just completely different, like, especially the heat. Being 9 years old, I haven't got all that many memories, but far different to skiing to school in Finland, you know. Just completely different.
So when you made this caravan trip south, where did you end up settling?
First of all, we went to Crow's Nest, so that was now my third primary school. Then we went to Maroubra, fourth primary school, then settled in Annandale. So we were in Annandale for about 8 years, I think.
And of course, at that particular stage, Annandale was virtually the heart of racing as far as harness racing was concerned at Harold Park.
Yeah, that's right. So it's only purely through circumstances that I ended up being involved in harness racing. I went to high school with Greg Lewis. One day he said to me, come to Kembla Grange. We've got a horse racing at Kembla Grange. I had no idea what the trots were. So I got the train down and then came back in the back of the old Bedford horse truck and I was hooked.
And at that particular stage, Les, every second corner in that Annandale Glebe area had stables.
Oh, exactly, yeah. The old fella that I was involved with was Jack Davenport. He had one nice horse that used to race at Harold Park, but I think there was Billy Brownlee, I think. Then you had Les Chan, Sammy Agard, they were all in Glebe. There were mostly 100 horses trained at Harold Park in those days.
So how did you end up at the same school as Greg Lewis? And the school we're referring to is Ibrox Park Boys High School, which is now Leichhardt High School, which was only for the boys back in the days. And 5 years after you and Greg parted the scene, I arrived at that particular high school.
Okay, so we've got the same alma mater, old Ibrox Park. Yeah, it was the nearest high school, so by the time I got to high school, I'd sort of mastered the language. It took me mostly until high school to really start to understand what school was all about, but I did pretty well once I got to high school.
You're being very modest because I know that you did more than just pretty well. You were the Ducks.
Most years until I think I was Ducks from first to fifth year. Then I got my licence and spent too much time at Parramatta Trots and Penrith Trots and Hawkesbury Trots, so then the scholastic ability just went downhill in the last year of high school.
It certainly was an intriguing journey. Then you went on to become involved in harness racing. So how did it all start to unfold? You got with Greg and he got you interested, but then how did it all start to take shape?
When I went to work, I worked in TAFE. I bought a yearling when I was about 23 or 24, and then virtually learned from the old Care and Training of the Trotter and Pacer, the great book, the Bible, on how to train horses. Watched other people at Harold Park and just progressed from there. Won my first race on that horse. I gave him to Barry Madison actually for a while to sort out because I didn't have the knowledge. Barry won 2 races with him and then I won my first race on him in about 1976, I think it was, at Maitland. And then I got involved with Jeff Scott, who was on the old Trotting Authority, and I leased a mare off him called Nippy Babe, and she sort of put me on the map. She was a Harold Park horse. I really wasn't a Harold Park driver, but we still won 3 races at Harold Park with her. And from there, I decided to take 12 months off work, tried training full time, and I did go back to TAFE for, I think, 1 month. I was registrar at Campbelltown TAFE up the road here, but I didn't like it, so I decided to go full time.
And it was at TAFE you ended up with a name change. You just thought you'd go with the flow.
Yeah, my first day at work, I was 18 years old. My real name is Lusse. No one could pronounce it, so straight away they said, "Oh, we can't call you that. We'll call you Les," and it's been Les ever since.
Arriving here without the use of the English language, self-taught in that regard, Ducks of Ibrox Park High School, self-taught in harness racing, you must have just had a thirst for knowledge.
Yeah, I did mainly do a lot of reading, but Barry Madison was another great influence on my career. When I went full time, I was going okay. I had a really nice mare called Prue Dewan. She won about 7 at Harold Park, ran second in the Leadership Mile. But Barry said, "You're better off to come up to the Hunter Valley." He found a property for me to buy, so I moved up there. He said, "You're far better off to be up here and be a big fish in a little pond," and he was right.
So why do Mum and Dad think that you've gone from being the Ducks of Ibrox Park High School on a number of occasions to getting involved in harness racing? They must have had these outstanding ambitions for you.
Well, I suppose that's why they moved to Australia, to have a better life, especially for me and my sister. They didn't take it really well when I left TAFE, the safety of a public service job, but they got used to it. My mum used to always ask me, "How many horses have you got in work?" just to check how I was going.
And how many horses did you have in work at any one time?
I only got up to about 10. Generally, at Condell Park I only had 6 boxes, so I usually had 6 there. Sometimes I had a few over the road at Joe Morrow's, but generally between 6 and 8. Then when I moved to the Hunter Valley, I did end up with a few more up there. Then later on, I moved up to Anna Bay, trained on the beach for about 12 years, had a lot of success up there.
Yeah, that move to Anna Bay certainly did pave the way for a number of nice horses to come into your care, in particular a horse called Magical Mike.
Yeah, Magical Mike was mostly one of my better ones. I think he won one of those heats and finals at Harold Park with me driving, and I won the Intercity Pace. I drove him in that one as well, but generally I got Guy Chappell or Mick Formosa to drive for me when I got bigger with the stable up at the Hunter Valley. But one year I must have driven most of the year because I ended up winning the premiership one year.
And throughout those good days, Les, you always did seem to have a good horse or two in the stable.
Yeah, I was very lucky. From the beginning, I didn't mostly realise how good a start I got in the sport. But then even later on, I always had, mainly on the beach, I had a lot of old horses that were well performed, like Jack a Smile, and I had got quite a few horses sent to me from Gene Feast. We had Special Issue, it won the JD Watts. Lockerbie, he won about 3 or 4 at Harold Park, so always had a handy horse, you know.
Outside of Barry Madison, was there any other influences on your career?
Not really. When I was at Condell Park, I used to watch all the trainers, how they trained. There was 100 different ways of training a horse. Used to watch Jack Kelly. I think that he was a great trainer with babies. Johnny Binskin. Then you'd see all the visiting trainers. I was lucky Vinnie Knight stayed at my stables with Popular Arm, so I got to watch what he did. I remember one morning he worked in, I think it was a Golden Mile or something. He took him down the track the morning of the race, free-legged 159 morning of the race. So there was 100 ways to train.
At that particular stage, Les, Bankstown was a hive of activity.
Oh, unbelievable. I had stables in Symonds Avenue. At any time there'd be 100 horses on the track, you know.
As far as your career now, when did you retire from harness racing?
Most probably about, I'll be 12, 14 years ago. My son sort of took over. I only had a small team at that stage, and he played around with trained a few winners, but he wasn't really interested in it, so we both called it quits.
These days you consider yourself to be a travelling partner for Peter Payne.
Yeah, I go to, if I come down here with him, if he's got a horse in, do a day trip to Tamworth with him, but other than that, I might go to the trots, intercity pace night at Maitland, Newcastle mile night, that's about it.
Well, these days you consider yourself to be a pretty fair golfer?
Average, very average. You sort of think you're going to play better every week, but it doesn't often happen.
I believe you also enjoy a cruise or two these days.
Yeah, we've been on about 3 cruises. Yeah, it's good value, the cruises. Yeah, it's amazing the people you meet. I think Fred Hastings was on the last cruise that we went on.
Of all the people to bump into on the big seas, when you think you're away from everyone, up pops Fred.
It doesn't matter where you go, you're always going to run into somebody that you know.
And you can't escape when you're on a ship.
No, you can't.
Well, Les, it's been great to catch up with you. It's been a long time. We used to chat on a regular basis back in the old days at Harold Park, but lovely to see you here today and lovely to have a bit of a reminisce with you.
Yeah, thanks for the walk down memory lane.